Jinan, China, May 3rd, 2026. In many Asian cultures, people believe that when the sky changes in an unusual way, nature may be sending a warning, and that afternoon, millions across Shandong witnessed something they would never forget. The sky suddenly turned black. The air became strangely heavy, as if the entire city was trapped beneath an invisible pressure. Then, the wind appeared. At first, only a faint whistle between buildings. But moments later, windows began shaking. Metal signs slammed violently against each other. Leaves spiraled across the streets, and within minutes, the entire city heard a sound many residents would later describe as the sound of nature losing control. Some people ran, some froze, others could only pray, because for the first time, they realized they were facing a force far beyond human control. And the most terrifying part, all of it happened in just a few minutes. Welcome to Natural Destruction, a channel where we do not simply witness disasters, we investigate them, we analyze them, and we uncover the lessons communities across Asia must learn before the next disaster arrives. If you value deep disaster documentaries and real-world survival awareness, subscribe now because the next storm could be even worse. May 3rd, 2026, Shandong Province, Eastern China. At first, it felt like a completely normal afternoon. Markets were crowded, scooters filled the sidewalks. Traffic moved through the city like any other day. Children still played outside. Nobody imagined that less than 1 hour later, the city would fall into chaos. Above Shandong, warm, moisture-filled air collided with a colder air mass moving south. The atmosphere became dangerously unstable. Massive thunderstorm clouds formed at terrifying speed. Then, shortly after 4 p.m., the daylight began disappearing, not like a normal storm. This felt different, darker, heavier. Witnesses later described it as night arriving in the middle of the afternoon. And what frightened many people most was not the darkness itself, but the strange feeling spreading through the city. For centuries, people across Asia have believed that sudden changes in the sky are warnings from nature, not because of superstition, but because long before modern technology existed, human beings already understood one truth. When nature changes too quickly, danger is usually close. But nobody knew that only minutes later, level 12 winds would slam directly into the city. Then the wind arrived, at first weak, then suddenly violent. Powerful gusts ripped through the streets of Jinan. Rows of electric scooters collapsed like dominoes. Outdoor tents were torn into the sky. Metal signs shook violently. Plastic and steel debris flew across crowded roads. People panicked. Residents ran for shelter, and in many videos from the scene, you can actually see the exact moment normal life collapsed into chaos. A man still parking his scooter, a family buying food under a market roof. Then suddenly, the wind hit. People started running. Nobody knew what object might fly next. That is what makes storms like this so terrifying. They give human beings no time to prepare mentally. 1 minute earlier, everything felt normal. 1 minute later, the city looked completely out of control, and for many residents, the most traumatic part was not the damage, it was the helplessness, children crying in fear, elderly people unable to move quickly enough, some residents simply standing frozen beneath the black sky. Because sometimes people are not only afraid of the storm, what truly terrifies them is the feeling of losing control.
像是逃难一样。
Then, just as suddenly as it arrived, the wind slowly weakened. The screaming faded. Rain still fell across the city, but by then, everything had changed. Disasters always remind humanity of one uncomfortable truth. Normal life is far more fragile than we think. And if you want to continue exploring the world's most terrifying natural events with natural destruction, support the channel by subscribing, because sometimes knowledge and preparation are what save lives.
无人驾驶，不知道怎么办。
真的，那脸不是很凶啊？尤其他前面有时候就往外面很凶的。
At first, many residents believed this was just another thunderstorm, but minutes later, they realized they had underestimated the danger completely. Meteorologists later explained that the event was likely connected to a powerful downburst. A massive column of cold air rapidly descended from high altitude, then exploded horizontally after slamming into the ground. Everything in its path could be knocked over, and here is the alarming part. Experts warn that storms like this could happen in almost any major city across Asia because the atmosphere is becoming warmer. Warmer air holds more moisture. And unstable conditions can fuel more violent thunderstorms. But nature is not the only problem. Modern cities themselves are becoming more vulnerable. Construction materials, loose signs, temporary structures, outdoor markets, electrical wires, all of them can become dangerous projectiles during extreme winds. And there is one mistake many people make before disasters happen. They think it will probably be fine. Until suddenly, it is not. Storms like these are not unique to China, India, Bangladesh, Japan, South Korea, and several Southeast Asian countries have also experienced increasingly dangerous seasonal windstorms, which means this is no longer only a local weather event. It is becoming a warning for all of Asia. The Shandong storm left behind several important lessons. Lesson 1. Never ignore a sky that darkens too quickly. That is often a sign that the atmosphere is becoming dangerously unstable. Lesson 2. Temporary structures are extremely dangerous during severe wind events. Outdoor tents, signs, market stalls, umbrellas. These objects can become deadly within seconds. Lesson 3. The most dangerous part of many storms is not the rain. It is the flying debris, metal, broken glass, tree branches, street signs. These are often the real causes of injuries during urban windstorms. Lesson 4. Never treat weather warnings as background noise, because disaster history repeatedly teaches the same lesson. The warning people ignore may become the warning that changes their lives forever. Lesson 5. Survival knowledge does not make people fear nature. It helps people survive nature. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is that humanity must learn humility again, not fear, but respect. The most frightening part is that storms like this could happen in almost any city across Asia, and that is exactly why natural destruction exists, not simply to show disasters, but to help people understand what is really happening to our world. If you want to continue joining us for future documentaries, subscribe now. Because sometimes awareness is the only thing standing between normal life and chaos. The Shandong storm lasted only a short time, but the message it left behind was powerful. Sometimes the most dangerous disasters are not giant typhoons or massive floods. Sometimes the greatest danger comes from sudden extreme events that happen too quickly for people to react. That is why awareness matters, preparation matters, science matters, and respect for nature matters even more, because disasters rarely begin with chaos. They usually begin with a completely ordinary afternoon. And then suddenly, everything changes. The storm over Shandong may have passed, but the warning remains. Somewhere, right now, another unstable atmosphere may already be forming. This is natural destruction. Stay alert, stay prepared, and we will see you again in the next documentary.